This video is sponsored by Only Crits. Hi buddy, are you just really needy today? You know, you could have been on my lap for the villains video. We could have done like a Blofeld thing. When the 5th edition Dungeon Master's Guide came out in late 2014, my friends and I were delighted by a specific section of the book, the optional rules for chases. We tended to run really cinematic games with a lot of focus on memorable moments, so a set of rules to make a more cinematic chase sequence for your games would be perfect. And the opening section of the chase rules is so promising. Strict application of the movement rules can turn a potentially exciting chase into a dull, predictable affair. Faster creatures always catch up to slower ones, while creatures with the same speed never close the distance between each other. This set of rules can make chases more exciting by introducing random elements. Yes, exactly. You can't just run a normal initiative-style chase and hope to get a tense, exciting scene, because otherwise, the monk and the rogue will just dash on their bonus action, the halflings and gnomes will just lose, and everyone else will just stay in the exact same pattern no matter what happens. You need a different approach. Plus, I cannot tell you how delighted we were by the fact that the table of random complications included this possible result. A large stained glass window or similar barrier blocks your path. Make a DC 10 strength saving throw to smash through the barrier and keep going. On a failed save, you bounce off the barrier and fall prone.
Easy, easy.
We were so excited to run chases so that we could get that cinematic moment. But then we started using them, and they were bad. The thing is, once you start reading the chase rules, you start realizing some problems that present themselves once these rules are put into practice. Participants in the chase are strongly motivated to use the dash action every round. Pursuers who stop to cast spells and make attacks run the risk of losing their quarry, and a quarry that does so is likely to be caught. Wow, we're 2 sentences in and we already have a problem. See, the chase rules are sort of a spiritual successor to skill challenges from 4th edition, although that's a gross oversimplification, and also, as we'll see in a moment, they're not like that at all. If you're not familiar with the term, a skill challenge is a way to resolve tense scenes without defaulting to initiative, and with the goal of encouraging players to exercise their creativity. In a skill challenge, you want players to use unexpected skills. If you're running a chase scene, in a skill challenge, maybe players would not just use athletics or survival to catch up with them, but maybe insight to predict which way their quarry will run, or history to see if their target might have an ally they're trying to get to, an arcana check to allow a creative use of a spell to help close the distance or block off the quarry's route, maybe deception or stealth to make the quarry think they've given them the slip. The goal is to put the players in the driver's seat and encourage them to find outside-the-box solutions. As we see from this opening, these chase rules do the exact opposite. They create a situation where the right answer, canonically as presented, is you should just dash every turn. If you don't, you're more likely to lose your quarry. Also, this directly contradicts the stated reason given to actually, develop these rules. Remember one sentence earlier when they said this was the exact reason you don't just want to run a boring chase scene in initiative? Well, the next paragraph doesn't improve things. During the chase, a participant can freely use the dash action a number of times equal to 3 plus its constitution modifier. Each additional dash action it takes during the chase requires the creature to succeed on a DC 10 constitution check at the end of its turn, or gain 1 level of exhaustion. A participant drops out of the chase if its exhaustion reaches level 5, since its speed becomes 0. A creature can remove the levels of exhaustion it gained during the chase by finishing a short or long rest. Oh good, so now the chase doesn't end when the quarry or the pursuers are clever, or lucky, or get where they're going, or catch up with each other. The chase ends when everybody just gets too tired to keep running. That's exciting. Then there's a section that says that spells and attacks still function normally. You apply the normal rules for cover, terrain, etc. This is fine, but honestly, this is the first moment where I've always seen friction arise in games when handling chases. When you're running a chase scene for 4 of your friends, it's practically inevitable that somebody is going to want to cast a spell. But when they do so, they're sacrificing movement on their turn. And when they do cast that spell, there's also a chance that it will just end the chase. Hold person has a range of 60 feet, so if their quarry is within range and fails a wisdom saving throw, boom, chase over. And that's fine. Players should be able to use their resources to solve problems. That's literally the whole purpose of a role-playing game. But the fact that the spells are essentially an afterthought speaks to an issue with these rules. They don't actually enhance the game, they're just a description of the most boring way to run a chase. Now, in all fairness, the opening paragraph didn't actually say that they had an alternative to this boring approach, just that they would make it more exciting by introducing random elements. Okay, fair enough, we'll get to those soon. But before that, though, we get a section about how a chase ends. If somebody gives up, obviously. If the quarry escapes, sure. Or when the pursuers catch up. Yep. Then we get a section about what happens when the quarry basically gets a chance to hide. And we get this Galaxy Brain section of the rules. If neither side gives up the chase, the quarry makes a dexterity stealth check at the end of each round, after every participant in the chase has taken its turn. The result is compared to the passive wisdom perception scores of the pursuers. If the quarry consists of multiple creatures, they all make the check. If the quarry is never out of the lead pursuer's sight, the check fails automatically. Otherwise, if the result of the quarry's check is greater than the highest passive score, that quarry escapes. If not, the chase continues for another round. I'm sorry. Passive perception? You want me to go back to my players and tell them that their quarry got away because I was comparing a roll to their passive perception? If I go back to them and tell them, sorry, you didn't see where your quarry went, do you know what they're going to say? I bet you do.
Normally the dice decide that sort of thing.
Yeah, they're going to want to roll. They'll argue, very persuasively to my way of thinking, that if they're actively chasing after someone, then they're actively looking for them. So rather than going off of their passive perception, they are going to want to roll their own perception checks. So, let them. Players like rolling dice, and they're especially going to enjoy rolling dice after checking out today's sponsor, Only Crits. Only Crits is a wonderful website to find some incredible dice sets. Seriously, they have some of the coolest designs on the internet. They are so awesome. I have a rule that I can't get any more dice sets until I get rid of some of the ones I have that I don't use, but every time I check out the Only Crits collection, that decision is so easy to make. I have so many dice sets I'm ready to pass along to someone else so that I can get some cool new dice. And if I can't decide which set I want, that's okay too. I can trust the folks at Only Crits to decide for me with their dice subscription service. Visit onlycrits.com/supergeekmike and use the promo code SUPERGEEK at checkout. Every order you submit by using that link helps support this channel, and it tells Only Crits that Supergeek Mike sent you. Once again, that's onlycrits.com/supergeekmike and use the promo code SUPERGEEK. Thank you so much to Only Crits for sponsoring this video. The next section of the chase rules is fine. It's a chart of reasons the quarry would have advantage or disadvantage to hide based on circumstances. This section is fine. It works. Great job, folks. But then we finally get to the chase complications section. Okay, here's the good stuff. This is what we're looking for. Let's get that fun, unpredictable element that the opening paragraph promised. As with any good chase scene, complications can arise to make a chase more pulse-pounding. The Urban Chase Complications table and the Wilderness Chase Complications table provide several examples. Complications occur randomly. Each participant in the chase rolls a d20 at the end of its turn. Consult the appropriate table to determine whether a complication occurs. If it does, it affects the next chase participant in the initiative order, not the participant who rolled the die. The participant who rolled the die or the participant affected by the complication can spend inspiration to negate the complication. Characters can create their own complications to shake off pursuers, for example, casting the web spell in a narrow alleyway. Adjudicate these as you see fit. I can't overemphasize this. This chart, specifically the Urban Chase Complications chart, is exactly why my group was so excited to run chases. And let me hit you with a few of my favorites. I mean, you already heard my favorite, the window in your way, but here are a few others that I like. A maze of barrels, crates, or similar obstacles stands in your way. Make a DC 10 Dexterity, Acrobatics, or Intelligence check, your choice, to navigate the maze. On a failed save, the maze counts as 10 feet of difficult terrain. A beggar blocks your way. Make a DC 10 Strength Athletics, Dexterity, Acrobatics, or Charisma Intimidation check, your choice, to slip past the beggar. You succeed automatically if you toss the beggar a coin. On a failed check, the beggar counts as 5 feet of difficult terrain.
Can't you put it in my hand?
And okay, here's one I like from the Wilderness table. You are caught in a stampede of spooked animals. Make a DC 10 Dexterity saving throw. On a failed save, you are knocked about and take 1d4 bludgeoning damage and 1d4 piercing damage. I'm a bad person. But something to note, this is just on a roll of 1 to 10. On a result of 11 to 20, there's no complication. Then there's a few more paragraphs about designing your own chase tables, splitting up, mapping the chase, role reversals, but honestly, they're all so bare bones that they've got nothing to offer us. I mean, the section on designing your own chase tables just says, hey, these two tables aren't right for every environment, so maybe you should make your own for different locations. Great. Thanks. That's very actionable advice. But honestly, we've gotten through the meat of the rules I wanted to highlight, so let's drill down on why they fail. First of all, 5e isn't an inherently cinematic system. Now, I'm by no means trying to say, if you want to run a chase scene, run a different RPG. That's not really helpful discourse. And 5e is an adaptable system. I'm sure there are ways to make it more cinematic. But the fact that it's not designed with that approach in mind makes these rules specifically an especially poor fit for the existing system. As a bit of contrast, it's been a minute since I've played either the Fantasy Age RPG or Feng Shui, which is an RPG modeled after over-the-top action movies, but I can basically guarantee you that both of these systems would be really well suited to cinematic chase scenes. Fantasy Age has you roll 3d6 for everything, and when you roll doubles, then you get to do badass stuff. There's slightly more to it than that, but trust me, we will talk about Fantasy Age another day. And Feng Shui has a similar approach where you roll d6s, but when you roll a 6, you re-roll, and keep adding those results as long as the dice keep coming up with a 6. It can get absolutely ridiculous. I haven't played Feng Shui since 2015, but I really need to dust it off and refresh myself on that game. It was a hoot. These 5th edition rules instead tie everything into a random roll on a chart, which is a very 5e solution to a rules question. But the decision I think harms this approach the most, more than everything else we've discussed, is this line. Each participant in the chase rolls a d20 at the end of its turn. If a complication occurs, it affects the next chase participant in the initiative order, not the participant who rolled the die. If you're only going to change one thing about these rules, it's this. Make each participant roll at the top of their turn to see what complications impact them on their turn, rather than deciding what happens on somebody else's. Players want to roll for their own results. They want to know that they could have had a hand in what happens on their turn. Or just roll behind the screen, roll for everyone. But don't ask the players to roll for each other or to roll for their quarry. You don't want them to be frustrated when they get a high roll because it means their quarry is going to have an easier time running from them, or their pursuers are going to have an easier time catching up with them. You want them to celebrate high rolls, because that's how the entire rest of the game functions. Although, really, if you're going to change these rules, which you should, just run chases as a skill challenge. It's so much easier to adjudicate, and honestly, you can still use this chart. Have the participants roll at the top of their turn for a complication, and then ignore the requirement presented to navigate them. Just allow the players to decide how they want to bypass these complications. Give them that agency. Then just make sure that complication is still present wherever it was rolled on the theoretical map, so whoever follows behind them has to deal with it themselves if that complication is still a going concern. You know, this wasn't supposed to be a video about skill challenges, but oops, I guess I just took down these chase rules by pointing out that skill challenges were a thing. Oh well. Thank you so much for watching. This is a video I have wanted to make ever since the initiative video. It ties into a lot of stuff I talked about in that video, about movement and positioning. And honestly, these rules have bothered me for years. I've tried so many times to use them at the table and to make them work, and at the end of the day, I just had to put my game designer hat on and say, these rules are bad. If you like this video and you want to support the channel, there are a few ways you can do so. You can subscribe and ring the bell to get notified about new videos as soon as they come out. I have new videos coming out every Monday and Thursday. You can support me financially on Patreon. Every new patron at any dollar amount, even $1 a month, really helps improve this channel. You can join my community on Discord and hang out with a bunch of folks who talk about these videos and offer advice. It's really lovely. And you can sign up for my newsletter to get some updates when I've got some major things going on that I want to share and tell you about. If you want to hear more about how rolling initiative has a bunch of unexpected effects on your game, check out my video on the psychology of initiative. Until next time, play fair and have fun.